Lakeshore High School was founded in 1957 in the small town of Stevensville, Michigan. It united the two surrounding schools, the Stevensville Cardinals and the Baroda Bulldogs. Along the shores of Lake Michigan, the towns of Stevensville and Baroda were not well known until the merger of the two schools. Over time, the rural school gained attention throughout the state, in large part due to success in sports. With a first ever school state championship in volleyball, a football playoff streak that spanned 3 decades, and a wrestling program that consistently produced individual state champions, Lakeshore became one of the most respected schools in southwestern Michigan. Much of that credit belongs to the coaches that held their players to a certain level of dedication. The coaches at Lakeshore High School all strive to make an impact in the classroom, on the field, and in the community. But in the 60 years that Lakeshore has existed, these coaches have gone above and beyond. These are the Lakeshore legends. When talking about Lakeshore High School, consistent success in sports is often one of the first topics to be mentioned. Throughout Lakeshore's history, the school has accumulated several championships in a variety of sports. Success in sports is often credited to the players, but no school could achieve this respect Lakeshore has without the experience and wisdom of the coaches. Diana Davis, Bruce Bittenbender, and Denny Dock have all had extensive success in their respective sports and have forged some of the greatest eras in Lakeshore's coaching history. These coaches have built these programs from the ground up, and Lakeshore's reputation in the sports is what it is today because of their talent, dedication, and experience. These are the Lakeshore legends. Born in a steel town in Pennsylvania, Bruce Bittenbender acquired a hard-nosed work ethic and hunger for greatness in everything he did. Attending Liberty High School in Pennsylvania, Bittenbender started the athletic career that for the next 4 years would develop him into an outstanding wrestler.
Yeah, my name is Coach Bittenbender, Bruce Bittenbender. I came to Lakeshore in 1970. I completed my 50th year coaching, 1 year at South Haven, and 49 years here at Lakeshore High School. Coach came and grabbed me when I was in 7th grade. I was a troublemaker. I was in trouble. I was involved with kids I should have been involved with, and grabbed me by the back of the neck. He was a wrestling coach, and he said, I want you to come out for wrestling. I play golf with that guy when I go back to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania every once in a while. But I'm still very grateful that he did what he did, because I went on, was successful in high school, and you're hanging around with people that have goals. You're hanging around people that are motivated. You get away from the other group of guys that are, not going to go anywhere. And so I got in there. I got a college scholarship, and I got out, and my wife and I said, hey, I interviewed in South Haven. I love fishing and right on Lake Michigan. I came out here. My wife packed everything else in a Volkswagen, and she's a teacher too. And after we won the state title in 1969-70 in South Haven, I decided to come down to Lakeshore, which I thought if I wanted to raise a family, this would be a much better place to be. And we probably had tougher kids in South Haven at the time, and it's a tougher town, but it came down here. This great place to live. It was a great place to work, great place to raise a family, and we've had success with the wrestling program. Got to find tough kids and motivate them, and that's we've been able to do.
This was the starting point for Bit's desire for greatness in the sport he loved, and from this point forward, all he ever did was win.
Coach Bittenbender is the greatest, most winning coach in the state of Michigan, because no matter what day it was of the week, he always showed up and had opportunity for every athlete. He always made sure if maybe somebody needed something, a pair of wrestling shoes, anything, a ride to a practice, he always was there to do that for him. So it wasn't just about the wrestling. It was about everybody having an opportunity to become the best athlete they could under him. And he did that year in and year out, whether it was summertime, during the season, every day. He cared. He worked hard, which made everybody else want to work hard. And when you create a community that understands what you're trying to accomplish like that every single year, well, you become the most winning coach in the state of Michigan.
From there, Bruce Bittenbender grew in notoriety and gained even more respect from the wrestling community, which has turned him into the coaching legend he is today.
So it didn't matter, we would be in health class, but he just always walked around with just a, stern, chin-up look that it would be funny to see the non-wrestlers walk by him, and he would talk to them, hey, you gonna wrestle next year? And they would get instantly nervous. Their face would become red just because he had such a, he was a legend.
In 1971, Lakeshore didn't have much success in wrestling, but Bittenbender put in countless hours into reviving the wrestling program, making the school a powerhouse in the sport.
Life is full of disappointments. It's called adaptation. You move on. You get up on the pull-up bar and you pull yourself up, and you're exposed to all kinds of things. Wrestling, sometimes it's a bad call, or it could be something, a death in your family. But you got to go on, and so you got to be a tough guy at times, and that's how you deal with disappointment. I think basically when I took the program over in 1970, it was in disarray. We had to get kids out for the program. We had to get kids to dedicate themselves to the program. The big turnaround came in 1974 when Rick McGrath won the state title. That was our first state champion. And then we had kids that wanted to be wrestlers. We had kids that wanted to join the program. And I think, like I say, Rick McGrath's first state title in 1974 was a turnaround for the program. We had two other young men. One took second that year. Another one took fourth, Eddie Kreger, Mark Moeller, and we took seventh in the state. And that was really a turnaround. After that, kids wanted to be part of the program. Kids wanted to be involved with the Lakeshore Wrestling.
Finally, in 1986, the team went to state, where they took runner-up. By this time, everyone knew the Lakeshore Wrestling team was going to achieve great things as long as Bittenbender was the helm.
Coach Bittenbender, not that other coaches aren't like this, but him especially has always brought an intensity and dedication to every single practice, whether it was wrestling practice, running before school started, in weight training class, anything we did, practicing after practice. He always brought the spirit that we needed to keep us motivated and working hard to achieve all of our goals. Coach was always determined. He was always very, very intense. Whether it was doing our jumping jacks or in the middle of live wrestling or in the middle of a meet, he kind of had this look on his face that it was, I don't want to say intimidating, but definitely a stern, tough look. One of his favorite sayings is that only iron sharpens iron, which, only a tough person can make another tough person better. And that's kind of how he just did everything. And you could be playing soccer in weight training class. And if you weren't running very hard, he didn't like that. It was an everyday mindset that if you were the toughest and you had the most heart, you could beat anybody in the state. You could out-wrestle anybody. It's a 6-minute match. And if you're intense the whole time, it doesn't matter how good they are, you could mentally and physically break them. They could be undefeated. It didn't matter. He was going to make sure that we were prepared to be the toughest, most intense athletes on the mat. And it really showed. When you ask what kind of teams did Bruce Bittenbender have, he always had hard, aggressive athletes, and that reflected straight from Coach Bittenbender, and it was year in and year out.
I mean, I enjoy what I'm doing. I was the kind of kid when I grew up, I worked all my life. I had 2 paper routes. I worked on a dairy farm when I was a kid, went into steel mills and college. And, work was always something to do. You got to have something to do. And I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy coaching. I enjoy the excitement of it. It's good to see young kids. Sometimes coaching, wrestling is a tough sport. It changes, it turns their life around. A lot of these kids go on to be successful. They use that same work ethic to go on to college and to take on a job later on in life. So it gives me great satisfaction. I was at the the national tournament in Pittsburgh. A guy calls me back, who I haven't seen since 1987, wants to get together, and he remembers the years of wrestling. They were good times, and hopefully that being involved in participation in the sport is a valuable asset for a lot of these young guys in their lives.
Every time that Coach would, whether it was the first match of the year or the state title match, he always had the same mindset. We're going to go out there, we're going to wrestle our absolute hardest, we're never going to give up, we're always going to be respectful, we're always going to wrestle hard.
Yes, it is one thing to win big, but to Coach Bitt seeing one of his men go on and make something of themselves, that's the true value of why he does what he does. But winning titles and trophies is pretty good too.
Well, going into the state tournament, it's half of it is mental and half of it is physical. You have to be tough both mentally and physically. You train all year for this, and so it comes to a peak at the state tournament, and there's nothing like having a state champion. There's nothing like having a state championship team, and so that's basically all that hard work and dedication. You hope it pays off at the end. Well, if you look on the wall of fame, we have more state champions than all the other schools in southwestern Michigan combined in the area. And the fact that those kids that have won state titles and it's exciting. The team thing that we've won some big matches and like winning the Lakeshore team tournament this year, knocking off ranked Class A Division I teams, Rockford, was exciting. We were down this year. We lost a lot of kids from last year. We lost 7 seniors. We lost 2 real good kids that transferred to Niles. But I think things like the Niles match, they took 2 of our best kids and we came back and we beat them in an unbelievable match in the conference tournament in a tiebreaker, and then we beat them in the district thing. I think that kind of excitement, involvement, the state champions that we had over the years and kids that have placed at the state tournament, all those things culminate into exciting factors in the program, that you work hard for and you see the kids being successful at it. And, you can, like I say, it's exciting. And to see the kids come up and do well, go out in life, be successful engineers, lawyers, doctors. We've had kids that have been doctors who cover the board on it. A lot of kids have been. You always hear about the bad. You always hear about the kid that went to jail. But I'll tell you what, I can take that guy, throw him out, and I'll show you 100 people right now that are making a good living, supporting their families, and doing well in life.
Yeah, well, I would just say that the school's lucky to have him. I mean, his commitment to the program speaks for itself. In shaping young men, because I'll tell you what, once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy, because even us guys that loved it and had a passion for it, there are many days we hated going up there, but once we got going, got in the routine, it was great, and it was, just great bonding, and his methods of training young men and his conditioning format and with getting them to peak at the right time, it's never, it's the proof's been in the pudding. Even, all these years later, you look at this year, for example, where you graduated a class of maybe 6 to 7 seniors the prior year, which is rare to have that big of a group stay in it that long. And he comes back and he has 7 guys qualify for the state meet, and 6 of those guys are underclassmen, and 4 of those guys place. And, you had a kid that was a state champ transfer out. And another kid that was a state champ the other year transfer out for, whatever their reasons may be. So, I think that's a testament to his fortitude and, his passion for the sport.
With Coach Bittenbender, every year, all 4 years, we drove to Detroit, the individual wrestlers. And every year it was my brother and I, and the first 2 years, Tim Newman, we would get in the van with Coach Bittenbender, and we would drive 4.5 hours to Detroit, and we got to just sit and talk on a personal level with Coach for that long. And it was a great experience because it wasn't necessarily coach and athlete in the room. It was us for that long, getting to know each other, asking questions, talking wrestling. And it was, once we had that time, I felt like our relationship grew and we had more of an understanding that we all wanted the same thing and that we could all count on each other and trust each other to accomplish that, instead of, like I said, just being coach and athlete. And Coach Bittner was always great with that. He didn't only want us to be the best wrestler, he wanted to make sure that he was making us better people in the end, whether it was always respecting the other coach, the other athletes, making sure you had the grades to graduate, or just in general not doing things to negatively affect what your goals were. He always had the right outlook on what we should do, whether we knew it or not. At the time, he did. He used to look at us, the whole team would be sitting there, and he'd say, it's time to put our childish thoughts behind us and act like adults. And he would say that over and over, just so that we would understand, time to stop cutting class, it's time to stop drinking a Coke before you go to sleep and not making weight, because he cared. He didn't want us to hurt ourselves.
Bruce Bittenbender is one of the most decorated coaches not only from Lakeshore, but from the entire state of Michigan. With over 900 total wins and 19 individual state championship wrestlers, Bittenbender has an everlasting legacy. That also includes winning National Coach of the Year in 2010 and getting inducted into multiple Hall of Fames. Bruce Bittenbender is one of the most widely respected coaches in Michigan, and his legacy continues to grow as he still is the head coach of Lakeshore today. Lakeshore Public Schools' motto is "Committed to Excellence," and Coach Bitt embodies that perfectly with the excellence and consistency his program has upheld. Diana Davis is a Lakeshore Lancer through and through. She grew up in the community and graduated from Lakeshore. After high school, Davis went to Central Michigan University and got her bachelor's in education, and later went to Western for her master's in educational leadership. In 1976, Davis made her way back to Lakeshore to teach health and physical education in the years leading before she started coaching.
I'm Diana Davis. I was the head volleyball coach at Lakeshore High School from 1981 to 1999. It was one of the best, most fun jobs I ever had. I feel like I got into coaching at exactly the right time. I'm sure maybe some of you aren't familiar with Title IX, but when I went to college, we didn't have sports for girls, and when I graduated, we did. And I just always wanted to be a coach. I never played volleyball. I took a class when I was in college, and I kind of fell in love with the sport because it's so unique. I had an opportunity when I came back to Lakeshore to work, became the head coach.
Back in 1972, a little thing called Title IX came into play, and creating equal opportunities for boys and girls in the school setting. And volleyball was one of those things that was introduced just to the girls. It wasn't like there was a boys basketball, girls basketball. This volleyball was uniquely set up just for girls. So kind of a new idea. And 7th grade was the year that volleyball could be played by most of my counterparts. So we had sign-ups for volleyball, and all the girls showed up and just kind of tried out, never touched a volleyball before. And that's kind of how I was introduced to it. I didn't make it my 7th grade year, but I persevered and came out my 8th grade year, and that's the year that I made volleyball, and that's where I
She began coaching volleyball at Lakeshore in 1981 up until her final season in 1999. In her first season as head coach, Davis coached her team all the way to a state championship. On March 21st, 1981, the Lakeshore Lancer volleyball team beat Warren Woods High School in 2 games to win the state championship. Diana Davis and her team brought home not only the first state title in women's sports at Lakeshore, but also the first state title in all Lakeshore Lancer sports history. The following year, Davis coached her team to the state championship once again, but lost.
I guess what was most meaningful for me and maybe most impactful was winning the first state championship in any sport at Lakeshore High School. And I think up until that time, people hadn't even thought that we could win state championships at Lakeshore. When we won that first title, people were just like, really? You know, they just couldn't believe it. And actually, I couldn't believe it either, but, you know, we were the Cinderella team. We went in, our record, I think, was 26-9, and, you know, nobody had ever heard of Lakeshore before. And so I feel like we kind of put Lakeshore on the map and maybe paved the way for other athletes at Lakeshore to think, hey, if they can do it, we can do it.
I fell in love with volleyball in 8th grade, and I couldn't get enough of it in high school. I loved it so much. Getting to play at Lakeshore for Coach Davis and play varsity level with her was just a privilege and an honor to play for such an amazing coach. Lakeshore's program was one of the best in the state at the time, and Coach Davis had built an amazing program. She was well respected among her colleagues and peers as a leader and as a coach.
Coach Davis always emphasized practice and believed that the way you practiced was the way you play.
What I loved about playing for Coach Davis is that she was very straightforward, and she always was super intentional. We did a lot of like weightlifting and jump training and a lot of fundamentals, and I think that her intensity helped prepare me for the next level, you know, for playing in college and even to play, you know, at higher club level before going to UCLA. And I think what I appreciate about her the most is that she was just so no nonsense and straightforward. She's like a great leader and a great mentor, and as a coach, she always expected the best from everyone. I just remember being kind of like, oh, like there's the varsity coach. And my mom knew her pretty well, and she sat down with my mom and just kind of started talking about, you know, the players and that kind of thing. And my mom came back to me and said, I sat with Coach Davis, talked to her about you, and she was excited to see you play. And that kind of like, oh, she noticed me. That's interesting. And from then on, it was kind of like you just had this sense of her wanting to be involved in the program and developing younger kids and giving them that, you know, extra, what do I want to say, belief in themselves to continue on with the sport. Our freshman year, there was not a freshman team, there was only a JV team. So they had to, some of the freshmen were brought up to JV, and I was fortunate enough to be one of those freshmen. And
she encouraged all her players to work hard, and that was the one thing they all had in common.
As far as volleyball goes, I loved practices. I just loved being with the team and watching kids succeed and watching them get better and better and better. We had a lot of fun at practices. We laughed a lot. So I think those are still good memories for me.
I loved the intensity of her program. I loved that she was trying to build a culture and build a family, and that we all played for each other.
She prepared us to adjust to our opponents. She wouldn't let us practice sloppy. We would do a drill over and over again until we got it right. Back to the training. She trained us. She was really good at taking average athletes and training us so well that we were successful, that we could compete with elite athletes. Just like, my senior year, we didn't have the Lisa Gathrights, we didn't have the Vicky Zinkels, the big time Division I players, but we were still a successful team because she was very good at putting us in positions we needed to be in. She was very good at working on our weakness. I remember one of her quotes, "Defense wins games." And we always played very well, very good defense. We passed very well. We may not have had the, big 6'3" attackers, but she would teach us how to find the holes in the court. And again, defense wins games. And she would tell us, hey, the team who makes the least amount of mistakes is the one who wins. And we didn't make a lot of mistakes. And that's how we would outscore our opponents. Because like I said, my senior year, we didn't have a lot of big time athletes, but she was able to take us to the regional.
Over her career, she coached her team to 7 Final Fours and an impressive 89.9 win percentage.
The last year I coached was 1999, and I was that was the first year that I was the assistant principal, and I was told by the superintendent that I could not coach and be an administrator also. So that was a really, really tough decision for me.
Today's volleyball program emulates the legacy that Coach Diana Davis left behind, to work hard and strive to be the best. Even after coaching, she continued to lead students and schools into success. She went on to become the principal at Paw Paw High School and the superintendent at Buchanan Schools. She led those schools to success as well. Her legacy is left behind on the volleyball program and the schools she went to as a whole. There is no doubt that she is a volleyball mastermind, coaching legend, and phenomenal leader. In 1987, the Lakeshore Lancer football team didn't win a single game. It was clear that the football program was in need of change. That change came in 1988 when Lakeshore hired a new football coach, one who would impact the program forever, Coach Denny Dock.
Hi, I'm Denny Dock. I've been at Lakeshore since 1988, and I've been coaching since 1974, starting in Dowagiac and then Hartford, and then on to Lakeshore. First of all, just winning our first game here. All right, the stand's empty. Can you believe that? I mean, we just weren't very good. It was just a situation where they had lost so much. And it was our first game. First game I coached here, we went down to Northwood, Indiana, played a powerhouse Indiana team. They're good every year. And we lost the game, but there were a lot of tears. So I had a good feeling. Okay, this meant something to them. Second game, we come over here, and we beat Niles Brandywine. We're in the Lakeland Conference, the Blossom Land Conference. And it was like, oh my gosh, we won a football game. I'm kind of going, well, I hope this isn't the first one. I hope we can win a few more. But I guess that first one, and then the last one, that last year we were 4-4 going into the last game, and we had a winning season. We won the last game, and then the second year we beat St. Joe, and that was the turner. It really was. We beat them in overtime. As exciting a game as you ever wanted to coach, but it turned the program. It literally turned the program. We could beat St. Joe, and that was the goal. That was the goal in the interview. It was, and they when I interviewed for this job, I said that, and they kind of looked at me like, really? That's what you want to do? And I told them, I said, well, if that's not what you want to do, you're hiring the wrong person. Because that's the object, beat the Bears. So we won that first year. And, oh my goodness, that just jump-started us. And then, of course, we went on we never had a losing season. We've never had a losing season since I've been here.
While coaching for 25 years at Lakeshore and 33 years over his entire football career, Coach Denny Dock never suffered a losing season. When he left in 2013, Coach Dock left behind a legendary coaching career, with many impressive achievements and 15 conference championships, 8 district championships, and 5 regional championships.
What comes to mind when I think about Coach Dock and Lakeshore football is a legacy. It's class. It's something that everyone wants to be in the area of schools that we play. Some shy away from, we get everyone's best. In any program, in any sport, in this school, we get everyone's best. And I think that's something to take an account for and be really proud of. When everyone's shooting to be you, and wanting to be your program, that's something that's really impressive. That's something that Coach Dock built over the course of his 20 plus years or whatever it is that he's going. I probably should have got my numbers right, but that's something that every coach and every administrator here has built to build that up, to have that kind of class and legacy of a winning tradition. And that's something that not every place has.
Yeah, I think the things that make Coach Dock unique, if I could kind of boil it down to a couple things, and one of them is preparation. I think he's well known for showing up to games with his team fully prepared. I started for him over 24, 25 games at the varsity level, and I can't remember a time that we ever heard him say the team wasn't prepared or the team felt like they weren't prepared. I think there's even a famous quote from him, prepare to beat the best. And that's really kind of core to who he is. He puts the hard work in on the weekends to get the team ready, and then, he even goes to the point where like the players are understanding, trying to get the players to understand almost how the coaches are thinking to be that much farther ahead of the competition. So one of them is preparation. The other one is discipline. There's no doubt anyone that played for Coach Dock, they'll tell you, like, there's a hard line of discipline. And to this very day, I'm grateful for learning that from him. And I went on to the military as an Army officer, and discipline's a big deal there. But for me, it wasn't that hard because I learned discipline from Coach Dock. And, that made showing up on time, being a leader in front of the team, doing the 2-hour weightlifting session in the summertime when everybody else is, doing whatever. So preparation, discipline, and then as I started to talk to a little bit earlier, he is really into the fundamentals. He wants us to the right first step, the right second step, the right arm motion, kind of, working with us on all the technical aspects of the game.
Going back to that same thing of how Coach Dock puts so much effort into you and he cares about everyone so much. I was getting heavily recruited from Division I, Division II schools. Was ready to make my pick, and going into my senior year, Coach Dock called my parents at home and said that John is not qualified for the NCAA clearinghouse. My parents and I had no idea what that was. He educated us on that. I was ready for a nice, easy senior year, and it turns out I needed an extra language class and an extra math class. So I had a full schedule going into my senior year. And if Coach Dock wouldn't have done the research and went extra and did some extra time to go look at that, I don't know where I'd be without that. He took the extra steps to to make my future better, you know. And he found out that I was missing some things I needed for the NCAA clearinghouse for a scholarship, and he went the extra mile and helped me out. So I much my college career and my success in life right now probably to Coach Doc. He helped me out a lot. He did something he did not have to do. What I noticed, again, being biased, what I noticed once I got to college is the time and effort that Coach Doc has been putting in for years with his players. Coach Doc would be sitting in his office in the weight room during classes or in breaks, and he would be making film of players. And it wasn't just the elite players. It was anybody that he wanted to go or anybody that he wanted to see go to the next level or wanted to have that effort to go to the next level. He would do that for him. And I didn't notice that until I got to college and talking to some other guys that their moms and dads were doing that. I never had to do that. I never had to put a film together. I never had to do any kind of thing. He cut everything and sent it to all these coaches. Parents and other people, their uncles, stuff, I had to do that for them. And that was just something really special that I thought that Coach Doc did, is that he put so much effort into his athletes, and he's a true educator, and not just making better athletes, but making better people.
I guess if I pat myself on the back and say, what did you do well? I think Monday through Friday and Saturday and Sunday, we were really good. And I think I was really good then. Now, Friday night, we'd all like to call back a few plays and that type of thing. But I think our practice plan, our practice preparation was second to none. And I was very fortunate to have a mentor in my young coaching days. And we were doing things in the mid to late 70s that we're doing today, just learning from Coach Werner. And that was a tremendous factor. He was a tremendous factor, a tremendous influence in my coaching career.
After 25 years, Doc had a total of 209 wins with Lancer football. Doc led the Lancers to 18 playoff appearances, starting the streak. In 2008, Coach was awarded with the Quaid Sportsmanship Award, and in 2012 became the WSJM Coach of the Year.
One of my first times with Coach Doc, meeting Coach, was him and Mr. Younger were interviewing me to be the defensive coordinator. So we were in a room for about 2 hours, and I kind of really found out how competitive Coach was, and he had me on a board, and he was basically putting his offense versus my defense and what we would do, and I thought it was a lot of fun. But I also realized right there, how much he knew and how much I could learn.
I love to coach. Yeah, that's my motivation. I had a couple bad years a couple years ago. Couple bad years. Wasn't sure I was going to come back. But I'm glad I did. When are you going to get out? When are you going to get out? Well, I like doing what I'm doing. And I try and get that to the players, whether it's football or softball. Find something you're passionate about. You can't believe how enjoyable it is to go to work. I enjoyed teaching. I loved to coach. I don't know if everybody can say that about the jobs they have, but I always hope that our players find that type of job. Find something you can be passionate about. Find something that you really love to do. Do I want a bigger house, a bigger car? I don't know, I guess. But I'm happy. I like what I'm doing. I really enjoy coaching. And that next state championship, that's high. That highly motivates me to get back to Lansing. That highly motivates me. And just here again, okay, who do you have to beat? What do you have to do? We got beat last year. How can we prevent that? What do we have to do? Where's the next step? Okay, we got this new group coming in. And that's a real challenge. That's a real challenge. And it's been, here again, if I do this and pat myself on the back, I think I'm really good at practicing. I'm really good at practicing and practice organization. And I think I'm pretty good at not putting a square peg in a round hole. Not asking girls to do something they can't do. Not asking guys to do something they can't do. So that's always that massage. Okay, where's this group's coming in? What can we do? What are we good at? What aren't we good at? What do we have to be better at? Those are challenging, fun pieces of coaching.
The man deserves it. Everything he's done for this school. He's went through some hard times too. There's some times here that he went through some hard times, but the consistency that Denny Doc brings to this organization, this school, is something that people would pay a lot of money for. And we got him for a long time, and he's very supportive, and he's everything to this school. So,
a struggling Lakeshore softball program looked at the revitalized football team and realized that the answer might be more simple than everyone thought. Bring in the same coach. There was more room in the house that Doc built than just football players. He would also create a juggernaut with Lakeshore softball.
I mean, we living in Lakeshore, growing up and playing softball around all of these amazing athletes, you definitely knew who Coach Doc was. And he was always around. Anytime I was up at the fields pitching with my dad, he always dropped by. I think from like 10 years old, he was down there and he was watching me all the way up until like senior year, all the way up until I was in college. He would come down and watch me hit and pitch and whatnot. So, I mean, he was just this big name, and I mean, he had the accolades to back him up on it. But he was always really supportive, and he knew when to push you and just how far to push you, and he was always trying to make sure that we were out there to win and play together as a team. So it was awesome.
Believe it or not, I try and do them the same way. The girls probably don't think that, but the basic concepts of being a great teacher on the field is still there. Well, when are we going to scrimmage? We're not. A little bit like Diana Davis. When are you going to scrimmage, Diana? We don't. Because it's all based on teaching. It's all based on being where you're supposed to be. It's all based on doing the little things right. And you don't necessarily do that in a scrimmage situation. You do that with individual coaching.
On the field and even in the off season, there is only one thing on Coach Doc's mind: winning a state championship. Coach Doc has invested a tremendous amount of hours into the game he loves.
Sarah Lippert hitting a home run to win the district, a walk-off home run. Haley's home run, oh my gosh. You know, and I told you about that the other day. Well, that was after, Murph's 16 pitch at bat. That pitcher was tired, and the next batter comes up, she hits the game-winning home run. Those games, let's see, softball, well, beating St. Joe again, I mean, they had some really good teams. People kind of forget that. St. Joe had some pretty good teams. We came back in the bottom of the seventh one year and got 2 runs in the bottom of the seventh to win the district. There were some tough games there. Aaron Phelan hitting a double after a rainstorm. Just a lot.
Doc will tell you that he's the best at one thing: the diamond. The diamond is where athletes work and achieve greatness by the drive, passion, and effort they put into the sport. On the diamond, nothing is ever given. It is always earned. The game knows who's put in the time in the off-season and who is mentally prepared. The athletes work for everything and stop at nothing. Failure is not a stopping point, because that's what softball is. One thing Coach Doc always emphasized during football and continues to emphasize with softball is be prepared to beat the best. Day in and day out, Doc expects 100% effort, creating state champs who practice a little harder, focus a little more, and do something a little better every day.